Good morning, I'm J. Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the October 15, 2017 edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details, coming to you live from the National Association of Women Business Owners Convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I'm just about to go to our annual meeting, but before I do, I wanted to bring you this word from the Bible. We are in an ongoing series looking at often overlooked details from the Exodus narrative. And we're jumping around a little bit. We're going to go back now just a bit into Exodus chapter 13 and 14, which is the story of the actual Passover, that night where the angel of death swept through Egypt, killing the firstborn of not just the people of the Egyptians, but also their animals, and how the Israelites were spared because they smeared the blood on the top and the sides of their doors. There are a couple things I want to point out today. One has to do with that famous killing of the firstborn, and the second has to do with the Passover meal and the order in which it was eaten and what that means to a Christian today. First of all, I know that many people you suffer with the idea of this mass killing, frankly, by the Lord of the firstborn of the Egyptian families and the animals. But you have to understand it in the context of what God was trying to reveal. As I said on an earlier program, and as I have been taught by another great Bible teacher, is that you need to see these plagues as a polemic against the gods of Egypt, on whom the Egyptians were relying, rather than the one true God, Yahweh. And I told you that every single plague was an attack, an express attack that the Egyptians would have very much understood on one of the many gods that were being worshipped in this polytheistic society. The last one was an attack specifically on Pharaoh. Pharaoh was believed to be a living god, and he was called the son of the gods. He was believed to be the son of the god Ra, the greatest of the gods in the pantheon of the Egyptians. And when he hardened his heart over and over, would not put his people's welfare or his country's welfare ahead of his own pride, God then attacked him personally. And by doing that, what he was doing is showing you are no God. You cannot protect your people. You cannot even protect your own family. And this was drastic, yes, but it was, remember, it was the last of the plagues. If at any point Pharaoh had capitulated, a lot of this could have been spared. But ultimately, God will be worshipped. He will be recognized. He will not share his glory. And in this case, that was the ultimate expression of the fact that all of the gods, including Pharaoh himself, had failed the Egyptian people. The other thing that I wanted you to note is the Passover meal is very indicative of Christ's work later on the cross. And we've talked a little bit about that. I do a whole program on that. But for today, here's something I wanted you to note. The lamb, the innocent lamb, had to be killed first, and the blood placed on the mantles, on the door, the top and the side, very much like in a cross. But then also it's after that the Passover meal was shared. Many people see our communion as coming from, or the Passover, and that's exactly right. Christ instituted communion through the Lord's Supper at Passover. So there's a direct historical chronological connection. This is why you should not take communion if you are not a believer. In fact, the Bible even warns you not to do that, Now, I know there are various traditions about whether you actually need to have been baptized in order to take communion, and reasonable people can differ on that, I believe. But there's no question that you need to be a Christian, an absolute believer, before you take that, because it is symbolic of fellowship with God. And if you have not accepted God and accepted the sacrifice of the Lamb, you really have no business taking that meal, because you're not in fellowship with God. You are still at enmity, at war with the Lord, in open rebellion. And I know that those are harsh words to say, but that is what the Bible calls it. So, just be careful that when you do take the Lord's Supper, you are in a right relationship with the Lord as far as your faith. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. I'll come to you again tomorrow live from Minneapolis. Bye-bye.